Welcome back to Open Line. We have with us Professor David Weintraub. He is a Vanderbilt astronomy professor. He's just written a new book, Life on Mars, What to Know Before We Go. And there's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about there. Let's go with Phyllis. Hello, Phyllis.
Yes, hi. Hi, people.
Hi.
I'm pretty much a cave dweller when it comes to technology, but I really don't think that, that Mars is inhabitable, even if we try. Because, I mean, think about it. How much money and equipment and people and plumbers and engineers would it take just to get a cup of water that's drinkable? And what happened to looking for a planet that's more like Earth? Don't hear much about that. But
okay. Well, let's talk about that. Thank you.
Mars is the planet that is most like Earth. The closest planet to the Earth is Venus. Venus, the atmosphere is 900 degrees. It's got sulfuric acid rain. It's a terribly hostile place. Mercury is small. It's too hot. It's near the sun. It has no atmosphere. Jupiter and Saturn are massive, giant planets that don't have solid surfaces. We couldn't live on Jupiter, Saturn. Mars is the planet. Mars is the place. Mars has a solid surface. It has a thin atmosphere with carbon dioxide, but that's a source of oxygen. We know there's lots of water on Mars. With all the water we've identified so far on Mars, if you could pull all that water to the surface and melt it, you'd have a global layer, an ocean covering the entire surface of Mars about 70 feet deep. So there's lots of water to be found on Mars. Yeah, you need a good plumber to get it. You need lots of money, but billions of dollars is not necessarily a roadblock to doing it. You just know it's expensive and it's going to take a while. But Mars is that planet. Mars is the place to try to colonize if we want to do that.
And she might be talking about going outside of our solar system, but that would take forever. This is a 6-month journey to go to Mars.
Right. With current rockets, with the speeds of current rockets, which are incredibly fast, 15 kilometers per second, 10 miles per second, it would take hundreds of thousands of years to get to the nearest star. Okay? Hundreds of thousands of years, not 6 months. There's no sense in even dreaming right now about going to planets around other stars. We can find them. We are finding them with our telescopes. We're studying them or trying to learn how to study them. And eventually we may be able to become an interstellar species to travel between the stars. But with current rockets, it's not even a pipe dream. In the near future, the next thousands of years, we're confined to our solar system. And Mars is the place.
Mars. All right, let's take Alan here. Alan, hello?
Yes.
Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
Well, my question is that they had, I'm listening to the talk show now, and they're talking about using a nuclear device to melt the polar caps on Mars, right? And I was just wondering that since their gravitation and density and everything is so much different than Mars, if it did, once it did explode and the Mars is rotating as like Earth is, where would the fallout go? You know what I mean? Will it just get hung up in Mars' atmosphere and engulf or circle the atmosphere and just stay there forever? Or?
All right, what about?
Those are good questions. And you're right, Mars's gravity is weaker than the Earth's. It's about half as strong as the gravity at the surface of the Earth. So material that flies up from an explosion can fly up higher and therefore move further. The atmosphere is thinner, so there's much less resistance, much less friction in the atmosphere for materials from the explosion to circulate globally. Mars has global dust storms. Every Martian year for a few months, the dust starts rising up off the surface and it completely envelops the planet. Mars is a different place. And again, I'm not convinced launching a nuclear warhead to melt the ice caps on Mars is a good idea. It's probably a really bad idea. But I think you're right. If we did that, I think the fallout would travel around the planet and produce a global catastrophe on Mars.
I hope, we're going to colonize Mars at some point. We should have learned a lot when we moved into North America and South America. I hope we don't screw it up too badly.
I hope we don't either. I think we have a very good track record at screwing things up badly when we send explorers to a new world.
Right.
Now, we have a tremendous fascination among a large number of people with going to Mars as that new world. I think we should work hard to minimize the damage we do to Mars if we go ahead and do this.
One other quick thing. All right, Jupiter and Saturn, they have moons, right?
Indeed, lots of moons.
So you're saying Mars is the planet. If we want to try and colonize somewhere or live somewhere or whatever, Mars is the planet. But there is a thought there may be life outside of Mars.
That's right. Mars is the planet where there could be life and where we could live. However, Jupiter has a moon called Europa, which is about the size of our moon. But because of the energy Europa gets from the tides from Jupiter, Jupiter squeezes it and stretches it and pumps heat into Europa, and that's caused the water in Europa to rise up to the surface. And the surface of Europa is solid water ice. But beneath the solid water ice, Europa has a global layer of water, an ocean. And we know that this subsurface ocean exists on Europa. And where there's water, and there's heat, and there are the chemicals for life, phosphorus, calcium, magnesium, iron, of which Europa has plenty, there could be life. So astronomers speculate that Europa is an excellent place to search for life. Saturn has a moon known as Enceladus. The NASA images that have come back from the spacecraft that's been orbiting Saturn for the last 15 years but is not anymore, the Cassini mission, show that there are water ice geysers erupting off the surface of Enceladus, going up 70 miles into space. Water, because Enceladus has no atmosphere, so there's nothing to stop the geysers. It's like Yellowstone. Right? Geysers up into space. Again, Enceladus has a global layer of ice, underneath which is an ocean, a liquid water ocean with all the chemicals that could enable amino acids, other biological materials to form. There's heat being pumped into that moon. There could be life. So NASA has actually been very careful with the spacecraft that we've sent to study Jupiter and sent to study Saturn to make sure that when the rockets run out of fuel, the spacecraft are sent to crash into Jupiter, into Saturn, so that they won't eventually accidentally crash into Enceladus or into Europa, so that we don't risk contaminating those moons, because we know there's a possibility there could be life there.
That's fascinating. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back, wrap everything up, be back right after this.